Hey guys, my name is Ashley and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm here to provide you with another word of encouragement. So today's message is about how God wants to teach us to be at home with ourselves. So over the past several years, I've experienced different losses, including going through a divorce and having different friendship losses. And during this time, God really began to remove the blindfolders from my eyes and just reveal spiritual truths to me that I wasn't yet tapped into. And even though I knew in my head certain things, like I really didn't know it in my heart yet because God had to basically restore my identity in Him. So God will often walk us through this painful process where, we're going through different losses and we're just like left there vulnerable alone with God, and there's no one to bail us out basically. Like we don't have anybody to lean on, or maybe like whatever habits or things we've been choosing to lean on for support, like it's no longer working anymore. It's just not satisfying, and we feel like we're just this empty like cistern, like empty vessel that we know we are almost helpless, like we can't meet the need, like this deep need and craving and longing that we have to be loved and to be known. It's something that only God can really fill inside of us. And then normal thing that we tend to do is to reach to, relationships and trying to get our worth and our identity from that and try to get our love met through that. And, God has to begin teaching us like what is inside of us and what within our own foundation, our own framework is lopsided. Because when we don't have God first in our lives and we're out of alignment, then we're not going to be able to have very successful relationships, because we're basically going to reap the fruit of putting that first before God. And what happens is that we're out of alignment, and then we don't really have like wisdom that we need to know how to properly go about that relationship. And the other thing too is when we're not emotionally healthy or stable inside of ourselves, we're not coming into relationships a whole person. Like we are trying to get certain needs met. So we end up coming into relationships with like a self-serving mindset. And there's the Bible verse in James that talks about that when there's confusion, it's a signal or a sign that there's selfishness going on. And when we're experiencing that kind of fruit in our life, like it's usually a telltale sign that we're not surrendered to God first in our life, and we're trying to serve ourselves. We're trying to meet our own needs and be our own gods over our life, basically. And so God is allowing us to be in this pig pen where we start waking up and we start seeing the pig pen that we're in. And it's kind of scary because we're like, I don't know what to do with myself, God. Like all I know is what I know, it's vulnerable to feel like you have to just be bare before God and, have to like basically take that risk of following Him and not knowing like how is that going to look, how is that going to turn out. And so I think it's really generous and kind how God allows it to happen this way, because He wants us to get to the end of ourselves. That's the only way that we want to surrender. God does not, he doesn't want to fight for us to choose Him, but He allows us to basically meet our own fate, if you will. Like we'll reap the harvest of our decisions that we've made over time, and we will realize like that it wasn't a plentiful harvest, that we are living in the destruction of our decisions. And God wants to teach us, and He wants to order our steps so that we can have this abundant life. So He's beginning to do this reconstruction inside of you, this heart surgery, and it's very painful and uncomfortable because like we don't really want to see that sometimes, and the first response is shame. And so for a season of time, like God will allow you to feel all this stuff, to wake up to that, to wake up to these truths and reality of like, where have we really been putting our hope in? What have we really been basing our life off of, and how fragile that foundation really is, because he wants to teach us how to put him first above all else. So back to the point about God wanting to teach us how to be at home with ourselves. So really how this happens is that we are becoming one with God when we begin putting him first in our life. And because of this, he makes his home within us. And the more that we learn how to trust God, we learn how to trust ourselves, and it becomes more of a stability inside of us, because we're finding our security and worth from God. It's not from other people or from, what we can control, but we have learned to surrender to God and to trust that he's sovereign and that he loves us. And I think that's the other big thing to this, is that we have to trust that he actually loves us and he's pursuing us, and he's not doing something to destroy us, to bring us to a point of shame. Like, he has a purpose in how he's doing it. There's like an order there, and he has to correct our foundation, what we've been building our life upon.